and good evening, everybody. This is Mark Rabelais, Chief Academic Officer for Lafayette Parish Schools. So happy that many of you could join us for tonight's discussion, Q&A, overview of Lafayette Online Academy. So before I get started, I just want to thank the board for allowing us a few moments to go over some things. Mr. Jared Kuti, who I'll introduce in a little bit, the principal at LOA, who's been working tirelessly to get this presentation together for you guys. And then finally, just to let everybody know that we have a lot of people from academics represented here tonight. So we have Holly Ortego, Director of SPED, Ms. Samantha Weber, who's in charge of Gifted. We have Ms. Tia LeBrun, who's joining us for Immersion, Larry Alexander for CTE, Sonia Hartley and Tanya Hebert from Student Services, Mr. Nick Jeffers, our Athletic Director, and Ms. Jody Duyon, who is the principal at EJ Sam as well, in case others have questions about additional options and opportunities that are out there in the district. So with that being said, I'll kind of dive into just kind of painting the broader picture with the release of the Learn Lafayette plan. So Mr. Kuti, you can go to the next slide. So for parents and board members alike, when I'm going to go into more details about the overall academic vision and plan as we move not only through phase-dependent learning, but also through the possibility of Lafayette Online Academy, but just looking at the phases that we currently are facing and some possible options that are awaiting students. So when we say phase-dependent learning, it's very important that we look at what those three phases are and then what various modes of learning may take place in each one of those phases. So for phase 3, that's business as usual for us. That's traditional and trying to get students in the building with safety protocol and distancing and trying to just do business in a safe and healthy manner. When we say phase 2, that is blended, which you have seen the AB basically set up that allows for students to be grouped based on their address, whether it's odd or even. And they'll be basically attending face-to-face to get full instruction 2 to 3 times a week. And then the off days or the days they're not face-to-face, they will have assignments, maybe virtual learning extensions. It may be additional work that's pushed out to students for them to do at home remotely. And then phase 1, this is the question that kind of brings us here tonight. In the event that we have to go to phase 1, our academic team is ready to provide full virtual learning for all students in that phase. This is outside of the work that LOA will offer. So it's important to know that our teachers and schools and academics, that we are working to prepare our schools and our students to be able to toggle between each one of these phases, depending on where we are with regards to COVID response. So when we say virtual and a phase-dependent learning, it means you will still have regular communication with your regular class-to-class teacher that you had in phase 2 and phase 3. When we talk about LOA, that is something different. So I wanted to make sure that I at least try to clarify that there is a difference between phase-dependent, phase 1 virtual learning, and when we talk about what Mr. Kuti is going to present tonight with Lafayette Online Academy. For those of you that are applying to Lafayette Online Academy or put in applications, I'm sure you have a lot of questions of what that will mean. But just know that is a separate program that is being offered apart from what we have in the district for in the event that we go phase 1 fully virtual. So I hope that does provide some clarity to the difference of phase 1 virtual versus what Mr. Kuti will examine tonight. We will go more in depth tomorrow night at the board meeting tomorrow night. I plan to present some sample student schedules of what they will look like in various phases and what some general expectations are. But tonight we really wanted to give Lafayette Online, the Academy, the platform to answer some of those specific questions for those of you that apply for the Lafayette Online Academy, no matter what phase we are in. So again, that LOA is no matter the phase we are in, you are saying that is the option for me, whereas these other phase dependent, it kind of depends on where we are in our COVID response plan at that time. So with that all being said, I will now introduce Mr. Jared Kuti, who is the principal of the Lafayette Online Academy, and I will let him walk through his presentation for us this evening before fielding questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rabelais. Good evening, everyone. Okay. All right, good evening, everyone. We'll go ahead and get started with the presentation. Lafayette Online Academy is a tuition-free K-12 online school that is offered by the Lafayette Parish School System. Students will be closely linked to their current school of enrollment for online support and added services. Online teachers will be located at school sites and will be available through conferencing, video conferencing, phone calls, and email. Daily instruction is provided through pre-recorded lectures by Edgenuity teachers. Lectures will not be provided by LPSS teachers. Students will receive a high-quality online education that enables them to participate in extracurricular activities like prom and athletics, as well as graduate from their current school of enrollment. Students receive services at no cost. Online students may have access to student support services offered by their current school of enrollment, including their school counselor. For a special education student to be placed at LOA, an IEP meeting must be held and deemed appropriate by the IEP team. This includes gifted and talented. For students with disabilities currently enrolled in the unique curriculum, the IEP team will determine appropriate placement options. School sites will be contacting individual applicants to ensure enrollment. Students receive online instruction via Edgenuity courseware, videos, completes quiz, and assignments. The Edgenuity curriculum is different from the curriculum used in LPSS classrooms. Using an adaptive implementation model, our online courses are designed to meet the specific goals and needs of each student. Parent expectations. Becoming the parent of an online student involves a serious commitment. Parents are considered to be their child's learning coach. For that reason, they are expected to closely monitor their child's progress. Student success is heavily dependent upon parent-guardian involvement in their child's daily learning activities. Parents must be committed to ensuring that their child is covering all required activities as indicated by the courseware. Parents are expected to contact their school's online teacher facilitator for assistance regarding their child's courses. Parents will be assigned a point of contact once enrollment is verified. It is recommended that kindergarten through 6th grade students have an adult physically present to guide them through their daily course activities. At all grade levels, parents must be aware of their child's online course engagement time and overall daily progress. Parents are kept informed by viewing weekly progress reports or visiting the Edgenuity Family Portal. These resources offer critical student course performance information and must be reviewed frequently. Parents should establish a daily learning schedule that their child will closely follow. Parents will do their best to provide daily student access to an electronic device and internet. In the event that you need to request a device, please contact your base school. Attendance is time-stamped and monitored by the Lafayette Parish School System. Parish truancy guidelines will be enforced. Students are enrolled with their Lafayette Parish School System current school of enrollment. Attributes of a successful online student. Students must have a high level of self-motivation. They must also have a desire to learn independently. They must also have good time management skills and great note-taking skills. It is also important to have basic computer skills. Students will be closely connected to their current school of enrollment for online teacher support and added services. Students are expected to contact their school's online teacher facilitator for assistance regarding their courses. K through 8th grade students can expect to work from 5 to 6 hours per day on average, including short breaks. 9th through 12th grade students can expect to work from 7 to 8 hours per day on average, including short breaks. Students are expected to take detailed notes on all activities. It is very important to do so. Students work at their own pace to complete all daily assignments listed for each subject, but they must follow their course map or assignment calendar in Edgenuity. Any work missed during the week should be made up over the weekend to get back on target by the following Monday morning. All online activities and quizzes will be taken from home. Unit tests will also be taken from home and closely proctored by the online teacher. Courses and diploma pathways. Students will work closely with the counselor at their current school of enrollment to create a schedule that will align to their diploma pathway. K through 2nd grade students will be enrolled in English and math, while 3rd through 5th grade students will be enrolled in their core courses, math, reading language, science and social studies, and physical education. 6th through 8th grade students will be enrolled also in their core courses, math, ELA, science, social studies, and physical education. High school students will have the opportunity to select TOPS University Diploma track or the Business Management Jumpstart Pathway. Jumpstart Pathway students will have the opportunity to complete coursework in the Business Management Pathway only. Other individual courses may be available to students pursuing other pathways. Lafayette Online Academy does not offer dual enrollment. A limited number of advanced placement courses are available. High school students will have a block schedule, 4 courses in the fall, 4 courses in the spring. If a student returns to their current school of enrollment in the spring, this may affect a student's schedule for online coursework. Athletics and extracurricular activities. Online students can participate in extracurricular activities at their current school, including prom, graduation. Students will only need to be eligible via LOA at the school they already were eligible at last year, for example, Magnet Academy, or at a school in which they are zoned for. Student athletes must not take a course in which they have already passed and earned credit for eligibility purposes. Students must be enrolled full-time, taking 4 full credit classes if enrolled in LOA. Students must complete and earn a minimum of 3 Carnegie units for the first semester by the end of the grading period for the first semester for spring 2021 eligibility. Unsuccessful completion or failing to meet requirements may jeopardize future eligibility. Enrollment. Applications for Online Academy are being accepted now on the Lafayette Parish School System homepage and at www.onlinelafayette.com. Students who begin the school year through Lafayette Online Academy will remain in LOA through January 8, 2021. Students will have the option to transition to their base school beginning on January 11, 2021. Progress will be monitored on an ongoing basis. At the conclusion of the first 9 weeks period, performance and course progress will be evaluated. In the event a student is failing to meet progress and completion goals, they may be offered the opportunity to return to their base school. All current Magnet Academy students who choose to learn through Lafayette Online Academy will remain enrolled in the Magnet Academy for the 2020-2021 school year. Online learning does not provide an immersion environment. However, immersion students may have access to language enrichment programs during their coursework with LOA. Students enrolled in language immersion programs may be required to take a language placement test to return to immersion programs. Gifted and talented. Gifted and talented services and placement for students will be determined through an IEP meeting decision. Services may include but not limited to, accelerated grade level content, grades 1 through 8, enrichment services provided by a gifted teacher, grades 1 through 8, possible AP coursework, high school. Online learning and Edgenuity. The deadline to apply for Lafayette Online Academy is August 3rd, 2020. Lafayette Online Academy follows the same school calendar as the Lafayette Parish School System. Again, school sites will be contacting individual applicants to ensure enrollment. If you'd like a sample of an Edgenuity lesson, you can follow the link listed here. Example elementary lessons will be available soon. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Kuti. Everyone watching at home, my name is Justin Santani. I'm a school board member for District 6. I want to thank all of our staff for coming tonight and everybody watching at home. We'll start off with a few questions here. Mr. Kuti, you mentioned a couple of times during the presentation about ensuring enrollment. I know we've had many families across the parish fill out the application on the LOA's website. Can you please explain what the next steps are, what they can expect? Because simply filling out the application does not mean that they are withdrawing their child from their currently enrolled school. Can you explain to them what they can expect to find out and how the process is going to work over the next couple of weeks if they choose to go this route for their student?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Santani. So all applications will be sent to the base. So all applications will be sent to the base schools. Once the base schools receive the applications, they will go through an SPLC process. The schools will then reach out to parents. They will contact parents regarding information on their application. So that's what I would expect over the next couple of weeks. As I said, those applications are being organized and viewed now, and they're being sent out to the base schools.
And what does it mean when the school is going to contact the parent? Are they going to advise them on whether they think the LOA is a good fit for their child? Will they be simply asking them if they accept the position or what?
Absolutely. So what will happen? The SBLC team will consult with the parents. They will give them options. They will weigh the pros and cons. And it would be a group decision with that parent. And they will make the decision on whether or not they choose to go online or not. So it's definitely a process where everyone is involved. Questions can be asked.
And Mr. Santani, if I can add to that, if it's a SPED student, that will include an IEP decision. Same thing with gifted. If it's a 504 student, that'll be an IAP. Again, they can discuss what accommodations are available based on where that student is and programming and where they're going to head into. For your high school students especially, they really need to have a conversation with parents about the pathways that they're on, the diploma track that they're on, what current graduation requirements they have met, need to meet, where they are on that track, because essentially LOA is a block schedule. So it is imperative that if they are enrolled for a full semester, that they understand that means successful completion of 4 classes to stay on that track, to stay on that schedule. So they will have the counselors at the schools as well as admin will have a full-on school-based level committee review of that student, a discussion with that parent so that they understand all of the ins and outs of that decision if they decide to go through LOA.
Thank you very much. And I'll tell all the staff members that are on the Zoom call, if there's a question that applies to your area of expertise, please feel free to chime in with the answer. These are not restricted just to Mr. Kuti and Dr. Robert. And for the parents listening at home, we're going to come back to the IEP stuff that he just mentioned. There are a few other questions, I think, base questions that we'd like to cover first. Mr. Kuti, can you explain how truancy laws apply and how attendance will be counted for the students at LOA?
Sure. So attendance is basically monitored by student activity. So what we do, we have a feature within the course where we can actually look at what students are doing on a daily basis. So what we'll give them a daily quota to make. So for example, for our middle school students, we ask that they complete a quiz each day. So we're looking for that completion each day. So if they, let's say for example, if they don't meet their quota for that day, if they don't take a quiz that day, well, that's like a day absent. However, work can be made up. So let's say if you can't work that day, you can't work on a Monday or a Tuesday, but you do make it up that week, well, you won't be penalized. So it is self-paced. They can work at their own pace during that week, but we would like them to go ahead and stay on target by the time that Monday comes. So the courseware is available 24/7 from anywhere. So work can be done on the weekends, late at night, it really doesn't matter. So as long as students are meeting that daily quota, and that's clearly spelled out, that's how we'll be able to track whether or not they're meeting their progress goals. So let's say if a student does miss a day and it's not made up, well, that's a day absent. And so we can see that in the courseware. So that is a day absent. And we do abide by LPSS truancy rules.
Okay, thank you for that. So let's go to the next biggest question that we got, the most popular question, devices. Does the student need to provide their own device?
We encourage that parents provide devices. However, if a student does need a device, they can reach out to the base schools for devices, if anyone would like to add anything to that. But that's pretty much the way it'll work. So the base schools, reach out to the base schools if your child needs a device to work on their online courses.
So would you recommend if the parent or family needs a device that when they have their meeting with the SBLC at the school, as you mentioned earlier, as part of the enrollment process, that they make sure that school understands that at that time?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, thank you very much for that answer.
You're welcome.
Is there a supply list for the Lafayette Online Academy? I know the curriculum is delivered electronically. Are there any workbooks or papers that need to be printed out?
Not at all.
Like that?
Not at all, Mr. Santani. So everything is contained online. That's the beauty of it. Materials, books are all online. For K-5, there will be some consumables, but those will be provided.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
So one parent asked their daughter's on the volleyball team, and this can be extended to all the children. Would they be allowed to attend athletic PE, which is in the last hour? I believe they're talking about our high school campuses. Yes.
Okay, high school. All right.
We have not. Good evening. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, Nick.
We have not made that determination yet. Something to be cautious of would be that we are operating under a capacity limitation, and with the AB hybrid model, that's something that we need to discuss in a little bit more detail to provide a clearer answer.
Okay, thank you very much. So the answer is we have not made the determination yet because we are unsure of the impact on the capacity limits at each school. Yes?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. In addition to the K-12 platform Edgenuity, will lessons be taught via Zoom, Blackboard, Google Meets, or any other video conferencing method by a live teacher? If so, how often, and will our children be able to interact virtually with the teacher?
If the question was, will they get live instruction through Edgenuity, the answer is no, they will not. Any support that they get will be just that. It will be basically a certified teacher helping them along the self-guided educational platform that's there, but it will not be Zoom or Google Meet expectation and certain amount of instruction for those students. Edgenuity is it's an independent led, student-driven platform to where they get on, they log on, the videos are recorded, the assignments are just that, the quizzes and tests are assigned based on what they're learning, and then the teacher can support that as best they can.
Okay, so let me follow up that question there. As a child is going through a particular unit or a particular assignment and they need some guidance. I know we've mentioned the learning lab that will be on the corner of Ambassador and Ridge Road. What are the virtual options for that student who needs a little assistance getting through the particular lesson?
So at this time, assistance will be in the form of video conferencing, email, and phone calls. We are looking at moving into our lab. However, it's a small lab, and considering the numbers that we currently have, it'll be quite the task to get that many students into the lab. But we are equipped to offer video conferencing tutoring, as I said, through phone calls and also emails. Also, students will be able to reach out to the schools, to their online teachers. So there'll be an online teacher that is based at the school, at their base school, for them to reach out to for assistance. So assistance for our online students will come in the form, as I said, in video conferencing.
Okay, so there is a way for a student to interact with a live teacher should they need guidance and assistance, but not necessarily in the day-to-day delivery of instruction.
Right, absolutely.
Mr. Santani, what we're doing is asking each principal to identify an LOA facilitator from each campus to help those students who need assistance. Those will be identified as we sort of work with staff and shift some staff around based on how many students we actually have enrolling in Lafayette Online Academy, but there will be a base person from each school that can assist students, yes.
Thank you very much, Ms. Trosclair. The next question, Mr. Kuti, and this could possibly be a question for others in the district.
Sure.
Will meals be provided to LOA students through LPSS? And if so, how do the students get those meals?
So yes, meals will be provided in a grab and go scenario. We'll send out those details as Ms. Renee Sherville works through all those logistics, but absolutely students would report to their base schools at particular times, and we'll give that information out as we get closer to the start of school.
Thank you. Are there any online groups to support the students?
So there are local online groups, local home study groups. We actually explored the idea of partnering with local organizations in order to offer support to our online students, especially in these times where you don't have that face-to-face interaction. So yes, we are looking into expanding that and including more social, you could say that social interaction between our students, even if it is virtually.
So I'm going to ask what sounds like the same question twice, but they have a little bit different spin to it. So let's say a parent has filled out the application on the website. They go through the SBLC meeting that you mentioned earlier, and they decide that the LOA is the right fit for their student. Are they able to change their mind before the start of the school year and return to the hybrid or blended model?
Absolutely, they can certainly do that. Completely flexible.
Thank you.
Mr. Centeni, we did put that we encourage students to remain in the online academy through midterm, which is, I think, January 11th or so. However, after some additional conversation, we don't want to have a student who's really struggling in the online academy to be forced to stay there. So we will implement a quarterly review of student data, report cards, and conversation with parents. Those students would be allowed to transition back to their base school at the end of each 9-week period if they so choose.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that. I know that was a concern that some parents had, and it sounds like you've adjusted our initial guidance on that. So the similar question is going to be kind of the opposite. If a family chooses in-person school for August 17th, can they then switch to the Lafayette Online Academy if in-person school or the hybrid model isn't working for them? They say they know this, that a student is committed to staying at LOA if they start with LOA, but what about the other way around?
Sure, they can certainly switch from the hybrid model or any model to LOA during the school year.
We are encouraging as many folks as possible to apply ahead of that initial deadline, application deadline, Mr. Santani, because we have to be able to staff appropriately each Mr. Kuti's school. We need to be able to staff that and make adjustments at our base schools. So it helps us tremendously, and that's why we have that initial deadline of August 3rd. Once that deadline passes and we sort of we get our staff in place and we're able to do all of those things that we need to do, we will then possibly reopen. Yes.
Thank you very much. So following up on that, I know one parent asked about the pupil-teacher ratio at LOA. I don't know if that's necessarily the correct way to think about an online school where you have a set number of teachers for a set number of students. But I think their point is, how are we going to staff the LOA? What kind of workforce are we anticipating for the dramatic increase in enrollment?
Okay. So basically, we will look at student counts at each school, and based upon those counts, that's how teachers will be assigned for the online students at that school. So again, we look at student online applications, approved online applications for that school, and teachers will be allocated based upon those numbers. So if we look at student-teacher ratio for an online program, generally they're looking at between 20 and 30 students per teacher, but that depends. It could be 20 to 50. It all depends upon the situation, the courses. So you're right, Mr. Santani. Teacher-student ratio between for online programs is a little different.
Okay, so now can you give me or can you compare the rigor of the Lafayette Online Academy with the regular in-person curriculum at other LPSS schools? Basically Tier 1 versus Tier 3 curriculum like Edgenuity? Sure.
Good question. I think everyone would agree that Edgenuity is very rigorous. We have all of their courses. Just the nature of an online course is challenging, but Edgenuity's courses are rigorous. We hear from many of our parents who move on to the secondary level, and they're telling us that their coursework in Edgenuity really, it's helping them in college. So yes, the courses are rigorous. If we talk about curriculum and being in Tier 3, well, pretty much all of the online, the 100% virtual school providers, they are in Tier 3. However, Edgenuity is approved by the state of Louisiana as an online course provider through their Louisiana Course Choice program.
Where can a parent find this is going to focus more on the high school and middle school level, where can a parent find a list of electives and AP courses? Do we offer them? How can they find out more information about that? Sure,
we will be posting that course list very soon. We hope to have more information out in the coming days. So we're gathering information. Edgenuity is always pushing out new courses. So we will have that information posted on our website. I would think in the next few days.
Okay, so the next question is, we mentioned base school several times, that a parent will be contacted by a person from their base school, or that lunches or meals may be provided by their base school. If my child is enrolled in a school of choice, but zoned for a different school, will they remain at the school of choice as their base school? Will they graduate from that base school? And obviously that applies to high schools, but can you explain how the enrollment and the use of the term base school applies to children in schools of choice?
Their base school, Mr. Santini, when we say that, we're referring to their school last enrolled, currently enrolled.
And so if they just got in, let's say they are an entering sixth grader at David Thibodeau STEM Magnet Academy, they will be.
That's their base school. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
And what about waiting lists? Will we be, let's say, a entering sixth grader will go to the online academy? Will we fill the empty spot at David Thibodeau?
No, this year, because of the situation, we are going to hold those seats for our students that are who've currently been accepted into our magnet academies. We're going to just let them remain for this school year. We will not be filling those seats this year.
Back to curriculum. What is the grading policy? Are there reteach, retest options? Is there a pupil progression document available for parents to read?
So in Edgenuity, definitely there's reteach options there. Students have the opportunities to retake quizzes, topic tests, and redo activities. The teachers kind of assess what's going on with the student as far as performance on quizzes, reviews, unit tests, and they can actually go back and let them retake those. They don't automatically retake them though. Teachers will meet with the student. They will do some reteaching. Of course, this year will be via video conferencing, but we try to make sure that they're well prepared before they do take an assessment or an activity in Edgenuity, that they are prepared for that assessment.
Is there a handbook for the school? And if so, where and how can you find it?
So a handbook for Online Academy, we're actually getting all of our materials together. As you know, we've grown over the years, and we on our website pretty much handles a lot of the information regarding our program. However, you know, as we grow and as the technology increases, so we will have a handbook shortly.
All right, this is going to be a question for Mr. Jeffers. Mr. Jeffers, can you summarize LPSS's understanding of athletic eligibility, specifically for high school students with the LHSAA, as it regards the Lafayette Online Academy? Will they be able to play football? Should football practices be allowed? Will they be able to participate and compete in games? Also, if we don't know the answer to one of those questions, if we are waiting for feedback, I know the LHSAA has a meeting later this week. Can you please specify what portions of your answer we're waiting on guidance from the LHSAA?
Sure thing. I have not seen any official documentation from the LHSAA providing statewide guidance. I did reach out to one of the officials there and got an email response from that individual. And she stated that virtual school requirements to be eligible, they would have to meet all other eligibility requirements in Section 1 of the handbook. Regarding eligibility, they must be enrolled and live in the school's attendance zone with both parents or domiciliary parent assigned by the judge. The caveats to that would be they would be eligible at any school that they had already gained eligibility. Incoming academy kids would not be eligible for varsity athletics, just as always, due to them being outside of their home attendance zone. Otherwise, they would have had to meet the eligibility requirements at the completion of the 2019-2020 school year, passing and earning 6 Carnegie units and at least a 1.5 GPA for fall eligibility. And there would be all other requirements would be in play for spring eligibility as well. They would have to take the 4 courses through LOA, passing 3 of the 4 for spring sports.
So to summarize, it sounds to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, that if a student was eligible to participate in sports in their high school this year, that they would also be able to eligible to participate in sports at that high school this year, regardless of if they go to the Lafayette Online Academy or remain at their high school, correct?
Correct.
Thank you very much for that. I know that was a very important question. Can you, Mr. Kuti, go over how LEAP testing works with the Lafayette Online Academy?
Sure. So in the past, what we've done for LEAP testing, we've actually tested our online students here at our central office. We've secured labs and they test off-site. This year, that may look a little different with the numbers, of course. So we may have to do a combination of testing at the base schools, but also testing at central office. Like I said, Last year it worked very well here at the central office for the number of students we had, but with the growing numbers, I foresee us testing at the base schools for those students.
Okay, is AR testing available for your students?
AR testing is not available for our students.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Kindergarten testing, will it still be done at the base school?
I foresee that it will be done at the base school.
Thank you very much. Okay, so now let's get into gifted and other special education. I think
Sure.
we know. I think you've probably heard from some of our gifted parents who have some very detailed questions about what the possible LOA offerings are, and they're in particular trying to make quite informed decisions about how their students proceed. What have you offered in the past? Are we trying to plan to offer gifted education or enrichment of some form this school year for not just high school students, but middle and elementary school students as well?
Hey, Justin, it's Samantha Weber. We are currently following the model that was provided in the past where all of our 1 through 8 students can receive enrichment services. What that looks like is going to be determined on an IEP team meeting. And the same goes for all of our 9th through 12th grade high school academic gifted students. We will make those placement determinations and coursework paths in an IEP team meeting with all parties that would be involved.
So there won't be any full-time gifted education occurring in the Lafayette Online Academy. The gifted students would they have to go to a campus to receive enrichment services?
For now, Mr. Santani, we're doing that on an individual basis. So depending on the need and what the student has obtained in the past, we're going to look at those to see what we can truly offer to ensure that the students would be provided with FAPE and that we can meet the needs of the kids. Enrichments, for instance, could be a variety of things, such as them going to the base school. We could send home some enrichment activities, or we could provide some virtual learning. That would have to be an individual decision that we make with that student, the team, and the family members that are involved.
Okay, so now let's cover what our other special education parents, the children who may not be able to physically learn from a screen, who may have weakened immune systems, may not be physically safe enough to be in a physical learning environment. What can those parents expect from the Lafayette Online Academy as we move into this school year?
In regards to Lafayette Online Academy, as Mr. Kuti mentioned, it's highly rigorous. So I'm going to always go back to it's going to be that individualized IEP that's going to make that determination. I know there were questions about certain accommodations. We can absolutely provide some accommodations through Lafayette Online. This is going to be more geared toward that LEAP 2025 student, and it's going to be a lot of discussion and data on what we can truly provide for that student in order for them to be successful. In addition to that, though, I mean, if we do the hybrid model, we can absolutely provide accommodations, and those kids would get the resources that they had gotten before. For our students who have the unique curriculum at hand, we're going to look at those individually as well, but we have the option to provide some virtual learning. Actually, at our 207 Town Center office, we would have special education teachers there providing the unique curriculum to those students as deemed appropriate by that IEP team. So we have different options available. I can't go through all of them because the gamut is so large, depending on if it's a speech impaired student all the way to a severely cognitive disabled student. It's going to have to be an IEP team. We've had a lot of training and discussion on those options, and we do have some very viable options for our students who are students with disabilities.
When do we anticipate our IEP meetings happening this year, and will we give any kind of leniency to the parents of our special education students so that they are able to make a more informed choice as to whether they want to remain in our traditional campuses or move to Lafayette Online once they have their IEP meeting?
So as the applications are being submitted, I've gotten those names already. My program supervisors and instructional content specialists just returned to work. We have been staffing and meeting. We're going to have phone interviews and conversations with individual parents so that we can address their concerns and answer their questions on an individual basis. And then we will schedule IEP meetings to discuss whether or not placement is appropriate. If not for LOA, we're going to discuss the various options. We're going to be extremely flexible. Related services, we already have a plan for that. We've been training our staff in order to better deliver services virtually if need be, or in the hybrid model. So that's going to be coming out very, very shortly. And those phone conversations have already started as we speak.
Okay, this seems like a good time to remind people, if people watching at home on YouTube, if you do have questions, we are monitoring the email box loafaq@lpssonline.com. If you do have particular questions that you've thought of while listening to some of these answers, please send an email. We will try to get to it while we continue to go through these questions. So back to the curriculum, the difference between Tier 1 and Tier 3, Mr. Kuti. Have we ever experienced students having difficulty transitioning back to our in-person curriculum after a semester or two at LOA?
So the good thing is that our school counselors in the district do a really good job of transitioning students back into the regular classroom. Sometimes, yes, because we are on a block schedule with LOA, it is difficult sometimes transitioning back to the normal classroom with 7 courses. But again, our school counselors do a good job of finding courses that students can use to supplement that, or they will be put in an online version of the courses they need. So, and that's the beauty of it. We do have online courses available, our online courses available at every high school. So the majority of the time, the school counselor will work with the parent and student to find a way to put them in a course that will keep them on track and to finish their credit for the end of for that school year.
Thank you. Can you explain how Jumpstart works with the Lafayette Online Academy? Will classes be possible at the Career Center even though the student is the Online Academy? Perhaps they go to the Career Center 1 or 2 days a week.
Okay, I will probably defer to Mr. Alexander if he's on there.
Yeah. So currently, the number of courses at LOA are limited. So they're pretty much limited to the business management pathway. At this time, we have not determined if students would be allowed to attend the Career Center 1 or 2 days a week. That's something that we're still discussing and that we'll make a decision on very soon.
Thank you very much. So here's one from a new parent in our parish. They say they have recently moved from another parish. Do they register at their zone school and then apply for LOA? Please describe the process for a new student transfer.
Okay. Yes, well, first of all, welcome to the district. Yes, go ahead and register at the school, and the school can actually guide you to the LOA website, and we can take it from there. But if Mrs. Abear or Mrs. Hartley have any additional information from Student Services, they can certainly add.
Will enrollment be capped at all this year?
I don't foresee that it'll be capped.
Okay. How successful in the past has LOA been at placing graduates in colleges and universities?
So while I don't have exact numbers, and I can definitely get that, our students, like I said, they are mostly the quote for tops type student, and they do very well in college. So actually, I heard from a parent last week regarding their student at UL, and that student is doing very well. So many of our students are on that diploma track to actually go to college, and we've been very successful with that.
So we're getting a lot of questions, Mr. Kuti, about band, cheerleading, general extracurriculars. Can you explain again how that works with the base school?
Sure. So it's very important to keep an open channel of communication. If you want your child to go ahead and participate in those extracurricular activities, to go ahead and reach out to, and we can definitely help facilitate that. but it's always good to establish a relationship with the school and to maintain that relationship through the school year. That student, that family who wants to participate in extracurricular activities, they will have to, meet all the requirements. They'll have to make all of the meetings and participate in every activity that's required by that club. So it's important to remain active and have a good relationship with the school. So as I said, you reach out to the school, you maintain that relationship. We can help facilitate that. And there aren't any special rules for online students. They're just like a normal student at that school. They need to meet all the requirements and participate in anything that is required there.
So you said earlier that K-2 will only be taught math and English. Is that correct? Will they receive any instruction in any other areas or any kind of enrichment in other content areas?
Okay, so from what I understand, it is math and English. If we may have some input.
Yeah, so that's going to follow. The only thing that will have K2 outside of ELA and math is just going to be science and social studies, but that's basically an enrichment extension type task. So that I'm talking for when we're in phase 2, phase 3 at regular traditional blended learning. So we felt it was fair only to model that in our LOA program. So again, the focus will be on just ELA and math, and again, trying to fill in as many gaps as we can, especially with only getting 3/4 of a year learning off of last year.
Okay, thank you. So we got a question about, we covered special education and gifted IEPs. How about talented IEPs? Will those be honored?
Yes, those are going to be handled in the same way that gifted will be offered. We are going to meet with each individual IEP team member, speak with the parents, and determine placement and the course of action for each individual child.
Okay. Ms. Ortega, one more for you. For SPED students who use the unique curriculum, should the parent wait to apply for LOA until they speak with someone in your department?
The best route would be to contact their program supervisor or the school. But yeah, honestly, that would probably be the best route. I wouldn't even apply for LOA because, or if you do, make a note, but contact your base school and they can reach out to us or call my office directly. And I can give that number right now, 521-7224. And I can put them in contact with the appropriate person and we can schedule those meetings and make those decisions for the students now.
Thank you. And to be clear, that was Ms. Holly Ortego, our Director of Special Education for the special education parents listening tonight. So let's discuss, I'm going to call up Ms. LeBrun now. Let's discuss immersion students. How are we preparing, and I understand that the LOA does not offer immersion or language immersion education, but how are we planning or thinking about immersion students who are going to lose another semester of language and reintegrating them back into the school setting once they choose to return?
Well, I have turned into the academic team some at-home resources for each of our immersion languages. I am putting together some resources that I can have in a folder that parents can have access through, and I'll have the teachers share that information out through their Google Classroom. So logging into Google Classroom will be the best way for parents to get a hold to some more information. They can also contact me directly if they need access. So that's what we have right now. But, as you know, we might come up with something a little bit different later on as things progress. So right now, that's what we're planning for, though, is to give them some tools that are free, that they can have access to at home, and it'll be easy for them to manage, something that they won't need to understand the language to use.
So what about kindergarten? And this is going to get a little bit into the rules and policies of the immersion program themselves. Kindergartners and pre-K students who may have been first-time students in the language this year, do we consider, or are we considering any kind of leniency on the entrance of the program? So let's just say there was a kindergartner this year who is going to be entering the French immersion program for the first time. Their parents choose the Lafayette Online Academy for their education, and they want to re-enter next year for first grade. I know in the past we have allowed students to enter into the first grade, but we do perform a little bit of an assessment on them to try to gauge whether they'll be successful in entering at such a later age. Are we considering, or have we thought about anything along those lines of leniency for allowing first graders to begin their immersion education?
All students are not immediately losing any spots, just so that all parents are aware. We are keeping them in immersion. But for those students who are in the online learning environment, if they come back in January, they will come right into their immersion class. If they stay out the entire year, all pre-K and K will go into their next grade level automatically. First grade this year, who will be going into second grade and up, any students above that will have to take some sort of assessment to see that they're on at least a manageable level to come back into the immersion program.
All right, at this point, I'll just go ahead and make an announcement that many questions coming in touch on aspects we've already covered. So if we do not ask your particular question, please know that it is covered in the video already. So please rewatch it to learn more about your particular concerns. For a child or a teacher from the base school assigned to assist with Edgenuity when that is not their curriculum, or that's the question from the parent. How can a teacher from a base school be assigned to assist with Edgenuity when that is not their curriculum? What kind of training are we going to give for our local teachers to assist our students?
So that's a good question. We're actually setting up training now for our teachers and instructional leaders and other staff members. So that training will be in the next couple of weeks, and we will also do follow-up trainings. So they will be trained in Edgenuity. It's very important that they know the curriculum and they're very familiar with it so that they can communicate the topics that are in the courses. So yes, they will be trained.
So this is actually a question from me that I just thought of hearing your answers.
Sure.
Students, we finished the year early last year as we shut down in March, so they lost the 9 weeks of instruction. We are going to be relying very heavily on our teachers and our principals to assess where our returning students are in the in-person traditional school. What are we going to do for those students that enter into the online academy to not only assess where they are in their learning, but also remediate them to try to make sure they finish this school year where they're supposed to be?
Okay, so Edgenuity has within the courses, they have such things as diagnostic testing or prescriptive testing. So if we can identify a student who does, there may be a deficit there, we can actually have them take a diagnostic test on whatever course they're entering, and the courseware actually builds a course based on their deficiencies. So it's a pretty useful tool that we use all the time. And those are available for any Edgenuity courses that we offer.
A related question from the other direction. This is the question that actually made me think of that one. Can students work ahead to complete the year early?
Yes, absolutely. That's another thing that's really great about it. We do promote acceleration. We have, many times we have graduating juniors in our program. This past year, we graduated roughly 45 students. Last year, roughly the same amount of students. But yes, they can work ahead. Let's say, for example, when they have their first set of courses in the fall. So what if they finish one of those courses early in the fall? Well, we'll take one from the spring if the parent and student agrees, and we'll put that course in the fall so they can then accelerate. We have many students and parents who like that option. And as long as the student is able to handle the coursework, we'll definitely do that. But we will meet with the parent and discuss it all and make a recommendation with that.
Mr. Santani, can I go back real quick to your previous question?
Absolutely, Dr. Rabelais.
So when we talk about those kids that are struggling, that are maybe a little bit further behind, I really want to just make sure we're clear that those students may need extra interventions. They may need extra assistance. They may need extra help. So I just want to reiterate that if those parents are considering LOA, that may be a conversation with the school to review the school data, the student data, the trends of that student, and really have a conversation, because I just don't want them to go to something that requires that student to be really independent, self-led, to go down a road that they really need a lot more support, especially based off last year and not finishing a full year. So I'm saying all of that to say, if they stay blended to virtual in our phase-dependent learning, they will get maybe more interventions and more remediation and filling in the gaps that will help assist in that work for those students that are really struggling, that were maybe borderline retention last year, or that even went to summer school this year. So I just want to make sure that's clear to parents that if you're on the fence with that is something you really need to consider. That I would strongly urge you to just think about how you can get more face time, more intervention time for your student.
So let me follow up on what you just said. I assume you're expecting the base school, when they have the SBLC meeting with the parent before they accept their spot into the Lafayette Online Academy, to cover with the parent where their child is, where they ended the year, all that. What are we planning to monitor the progress of our students in the Lafayette Online Academy? Let's say we have a student who didn't quite get to where they needed to be at the end of the last school year, and they start off struggling with the online academy. What kind of intervention do we have to possibly recommend that they return to the phase-dependent learning or something like that?
So within the Edgenuity courseware, progress monitoring is automatically built in. Let's say, for example, if a student fails something a certain amount of times, it alerts the teachers. But we look at trends also. We look at trends, we can look at skills and see which skills a student is failing. But we're constantly monitoring, and the courseware helps us with that. It'll alert us to a student who has been failing quizzes. We actually go back and we review, we construct a profile, and we look at how that student is performing on his or her activities, lessons, even reviews. So it progress monitors for us. We just have to monitor it very closely ourselves, but it really does help us with what's going on with that student.
Okay, thank you. So one parent asked, if a child is currently placed in a specialized SPED program such as deaf education, will they maintain that placement for the next school year if it is determined that the LOA is an appropriate placement, or if they participate in a different virtual option?
Yes, sir, they will.
Thank you. Can you clarify for a parent pertaining to band, will students return to their base school for actual band class?
So I can actually have that question answered for you. I'm not quite certain about that.
Okay. What about services like speech therapy? What do parents whose children need speech therapy services do in regards to the Lafayette Online Academy?
If the IEP team determines that placement at LOA is appropriate, we can absolutely provide virtual speech therapy services.
Thank you very much. Does the LOA use the parent portal?
Edgenuity has its own parent portal. So parents are given access to the Edgenuity parent portal, and they have all the information that they need to see exactly how their child is performing in all of their courses. If they're behind, ahead, all of their scores are within the Edgenuity parent portal.
Can students replay videos if they need clarification, or do they have to advance to the next lesson?
Oh, absolutely. So students have to watch the video in its entirety. Of course, they can pause. There's also closed captioning. There's also a transcript and translation in 60 different languages. But yes, they can go back. That's another beauty, where you can go back and rewatch something if if you didn't get that concept, or you can pause the video to keep up with your notes. So yes.
Okay. So lots of parents are curious. I think this will answer a lot of the questions we're getting. Can you please walk us through a typical day for a student? Like, how do they log in for attendance purposes? What sort of lessons do they receive? What do they do if they're having trouble?
Sure. So at the end of the presentation, I have a really good link to a video, but I'll kind of walk you through that. So your day, you can kind of structure your own day. We suggest you follow the school day or follow a routine. Having a routine is very important with online learning. It's kind of like riding a bike. The more you do, you'll get better at it. And eventually you'll get into that routine where it's a part of your day. So we have many of our students, they'll wake up and then they'll jump on their Edgenuity lessons. We have some families who like to do math and English, let's say on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. On Tuesday, Thursday, they'll jump into science and social studies. But it depends upon what works best for you. And that's a really good thing about the flexibility of the program. You can actually design your day, what works best for you. If it's not working, we can definitely suggest a schedule. We've been doing this for a long time, so we have some different options that we can suggest to parents to help their students be successful. But a student will get on the lesson, and let's say they're going to do math and English on that Monday. Well, they'll go through a lesson. We hope that they can complete at least 1 or 2 quizzes per day. Once that is complete, they can move on to their next lesson. But let's say in that next lesson they have an issue. Let's say there's a concept that they can't get, that is difficult. Well, they can either rewatch the video, they can redo activities. If that doesn't help, they can actually reach out to us. If they're failing something, we'll see it, and it'll actually stop them. So it'll stop them from advancing to the next activity if they fail something twice. So we don't like students to continue failing. The courseware is set up to where it'll stop them and it'll alert us so we can go and have teacher intervention. So we can set up some type of call or an email. We send an email just to see what's going on, or do video conferencing this year. But we really like those interventions that are kind of built in there. We can put them back into a lesson for them to redo things, rewatch videos. So let's say we tell a student, we need you to rewatch this video before you continue to another lesson. Well, sometimes they may not do that. Well, we can actually go back and force them to rewatch that video. We can put them back into previous lessons to try to determine, ensure that they actually do those lessons. And we'll likely reach out to a parent too, to give them a heads up of what's going on with their child. But everyone is kept in the loop with progress reports, actually through the parent portal also. But that's basically a full day for an Edgenuity course. Like I said, between 7-8 hours a day. The more you do, that time may decrease. We have some students who work very hard Monday through Thursday. They'll do extra lessons so they can have Friday off. But what's good is that the progress monitor will tell you at all times whether you are ahead, whether you're behind or on target. It'll also tell you exactly how many minutes or hours that you need to work each day in order to get on track. So there's no guessing in whether you're behind or ahead for the student or the parent. It tells them, it informs them of their progress at all turns and at all times.
Here's a really good question. Are iPads okay, or are Chromebooks or laptops preferred? Does the device matter?
We prefer Chromebooks, but it's the courseware is pretty flexible. So you can definitely use an iPad. We suggest Chromebooks since we're a Google district.
Can you explain the process for a student learning to read virtually?
So yes, it's a very interesting thing to watch. So our K-5 program, in the past we've outsourced it to our partners from K-12. So I've actually seen them do lessons before where a student will read through lessons or attempt to read through lessons, and the teacher is there giving feedback. Now the parent is required to be there. K-5 is a 3-person team, so parents are learning coaches. So it's very interesting to watch a teacher giving feedback to that student and the parent helping also. Like I said, it's a 3-member team. It's very important in order for that team to be strong to teach that child to read. But they have consumables, they have online materials, and when it's time to connect with the teacher, they will actually observe them through those activities.
Thank you very much for that answer. So we've gotten a lot of questions from David Thibodeau about David Thibodeau. Will students be able to transfer back in after a semester at LOA? Will they be able to access specialized STEM classes through Edgenuity?
So they will be able to transition back to STEM. Regarding the classes, I'll need to get some information on that for you. I'm noting that question.
How do you monitor cheating on tests, especially with video transcripts available?
Okay, that's a really good question. So it's very interesting that we'll recognize the profile of a cheater pretty quickly. You can tell by the scores that they make on certain activities, and when it's time for a test, their scores are a little different. We can also look at the times that they spend on activities that leads up to a unit test. So if we have a student who's moving very quickly and doing well, but when they get to a unit test, they're not doing so well, we can definitely recognize what's going on there. Also, you can look at notes. We have access to student notes if they take them online. We can pull those up and view those, but it's pretty, after we've been doing this for about 11 years now, and it's pretty quick to see when a student is cheating or attempting to cheat.
Okay, so this may be for Dr. Rabelais. Can you please explain more about the block scheduling and returning to a base school in mid-year?
I'll start, and then Ms. Tanya Abear, if you could chime in. But guys, just realize that, like Mr. Kuti said, normally our high schools, you're looking at 7 periods in an entire year, so they have an entire year to complete 7 full Carnegie units. With LOA, you're looking at getting 4 in a semester's time, 8 if they opt to stay the entire year. So while that comes with some obvious benefits of earning some extra time, you run the risk of coming back to your 7 period day in January with maybe having completed some classes, maybe having completed partial classes, and so the counselors will have to basically adjust those student schedules to fit what is the master schedule at the base site. It's something that they do now, but I want to be upfront in saying that may require that student completing an LOA class when returning to their base site, even if we're face-to-face, if that makes sense, so that they can merge those schedules at campus and what they were doing online. Ms. Tanya, are you there? You can elaborate further.
Yes, this is Tanya Abear from Student Services. Absolutely. If the student returns in January, the counselor will definitely look at the schedule, look at the transcript, and have a conversation with the student and parent to determine the best next steps.
All right, thank you. So one parent asks, if we find a substitute online class that LOA does not offer, would that be able to count for class credit?
If that course is like through a different provider, if it's coming from an accredited source, we would run that through Student Services. So we would like that parent to contact Student Services, and Student Services will determine if that course is coming from an entity that's accredited. I'm going to say that you can offer more if you'd like.
Yes, and we would encourage the parent to call our office, and I could give you our number. It's 337-521-7075. So that way we can take a look at it.
Mr. Kuti, can you tell us what the website is for the Lafayette Online Academy, so parents who are watching this can go find other information, also fill out the application if they're interested?
Absolutely, Mr. Santana. It's www.onlinelafayette.com. www.onlinelafayette.com.
All right. Can teachers who may not be able to teach at their base school be able to apply to teach online, especially teachers with young children and have concerns about going back into the classroom?
So, Mr. Santani, we're going to work with, once we have all of our applications in and we look at numbers from each campus, Mr. Kuti is sending me daily reports of students who've applied from the various high schools, as well as grade levels per school, so that we can determine where we are able to afford to move some staff around, to shift some staff. We will work with principals in identifying teachers who they feel absolutely should be given the opportunity for whatever reason to do that. We have to also make certain that teachers who are selected are able to be successful and effective on an online platform. But yes, we will absolutely work with principals in considering those folks.
Thank you, Ms. Strasberg. So we've kind of reached the end of the questions. The ones that we're still getting, we've already covered them during this. So we'd ask those parents to please rewatch this video. I'd also like to kind of wrap it up, since I don't want people to have to watch an 1.5-hour video to try to find the answer to their question. Mr. Kuti just gave us the website onlinelafayette.com for more information. We're also going to be posting the PowerPoint that was presented at the beginning of this session, so you'll be able to refer to that document as we move forward. And I think it'd be helpful for us to wrap up. Dr. Rabelais, would you give us a review of the differences between the Lafayette Online Academy and Phase 1 virtual learning through the base school, should the Lafayette Parish School System have to go to our Phase 1 virtual learning model?
Absolutely. So just again, think about when we say blended as we currently have in the Learn Lafayette plan to start. That gives us a chance to use the good curriculum, Tier 1 curriculum materials that we've already have used, will use, plan to use. And again, for those listening at home, when we say Tier 1 curriculum, we're talking about the ones that are most aligned to standard and state assessments. So when we say blended, we're getting some time with those curriculums face-to-face, as well as exposure of those materials online. I'm saying that because that helps bridge if we go into a Phase 1, phase-dependent virtual learning for LPSS in its entirety, most of those tools will still be used. And so, again, they're going to still get a lot of the same curriculum materials and a lot of the same curriculum instruction with a teacher that they were getting in blended. And I'm saying that because then the ultimate goal is that they come back to blended and come back to face-to-face, so that there will be a great deal of continuity between all one of those instructional modes. So that is one huge difference, is that it's still dependent on the teacher pushing out that instruction. It's still dependent on the teacher reaching out and providing some interventions and providing some small group targeted instruction. Whereas LOA, the kids are on and it's very independent and they are off and running. If they enroll in LOA in August, they're off and going through the coursework. And like Mr. Kuti said, teachers will be there to support if they hit roadblocks or if they hit obstacles. But really, it's a reaction to how the student is paced and learning in the LOA programs. When we say phase dependent across the district, we're talking about the teachers are still guiding and steering a lot of that instruction. And so that's a big difference, and so we just, we continue to feel like that kind of, that's just a really big piece of all of this that we will continue to discuss and harp on.
Okay, do any other staff members, did we perhaps ask questions that didn't quite touch on the answer to the fullest extent? Do you have any other points to make? I'll open it to Mr. Kuti. If not, we'll wrap it up.
Mr. Santani, I certainly would like to say that the question about AR, although not offered, I will ask staff to look into the possibility of offering that to support those readers in the Lafayette Online Academy. I think there are some options of building book collections from base schools. I'm not really sure, but accelerated reader is just so very, very important. So we'll look into seeing what we can do about making that possible, if at all it is possible. as well as students transitioning to the Career Center for those courses that need more hands-on. Those are important to us. We just have to work out the logistics to see if we're able to do that, but we certainly want to be able to do those things.
And Mr. Santani, just to kind of bridge off of that, we do plan to establish some expectations in the event that we go phase one, phase dependent, full virtual, in that I'll review this tomorrow night, but essentially if a K through 5 kid, they will get some daily instruction via Zoom based off what they would have been learning in that class. And then for middle and high, we'll have set office hours to where we are embedding, again, some interventions and support. So I just wanted to make sure, again, to clarify the difference kind of between those two, that when we say phase dependent virtual, there's some regular built-in mini lessons and digital instruction that will happen.
Thank you, Dr. Rabelais. I'll remind everyone watching this session was to offer information about the Lafayette Online Academy. You can go to the website onlinelafayette.com to find out more information. You can rewatch this video. The PowerPoint presentation from the beginning will be posted and shared. Any questions about the hybrid plan for reopening, the Learn Lafayette plan in general, not specific to the Lafayette Online Academy, will be covered at tomorrow night's school board meeting. I want to thank everyone who has watched and submitted questions. I hope this was educational to you, and thank you to all of the staff members who have prepared for this meeting to help our parents make an informed decision. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Santani.